Welcome back to the channel, designers. So in today's tutorial we are learning how to sew this cape, collar and flare sleeve. So if this sounds like something you are interested in, stay tuned and let's jump right into the tutorial. So I started with this basic pattern I have already drafted. It has a length of 23 inches, half inch dedicated for the shoulders. Alright, this person has a bust of 42, a waist of 39 and a hip of 48, but because I'm making the length about 22 inches, I'm reducing the hip to 46 inches. Please, I want to add that I have several tutorials on how to draft basic bodice pattern on the channel, and a link will be in the description box down below, so check it out to learn how to draft this basic bodice pattern if you are not yet familiar. So here are the pattern pieces, the lining and then the fabric itself. Because I'm attaching a zipper at the sides, the pieces will just be two, front and the back. The back has a slit at the center back, a slit of about 6.5 inches. Once all is said and done, it will be about 7 inches to allow for the opening of the zipper. All right, so this is it. I have stitched the bottom, I've interfaced it. All right, stitched the bottom, I have stitched the slits at the back. You won't sew the neck because you'll be attaching the collar to the neck. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark out my darts, but first I want to take out the half-inch allowance I left for the shoulders before I go in and mark the darts. So because her bust is 42, her bust point is 12 inches, come down by 1 inch. That will be where your dart tip will sit. On that dart tip line, mark the nipple to nipple measurement. Hers is 4.5. On the waistline, mark 3.5, and then what you're going to take in the waist width, which is 1.5 inches. And then on the hip line, I'm marking 5 inches. This is the Ghanaian contour dart. Okay, You can also choose to mark what you had on the bust span measurement, that 4.5 on the bottom, but I wouldn't spread out the shape the way I want it to, so you use 5 inches. That is what we often use. So for the back, mark out your chest line, your waistline, which is the front waist minus 2 inches, so I'm using 15 inches. You take in your waist with 1.5 inches, you mark 5 inches on the hip line, and then this is basically your dart. So this is how you're going to sew the dart. Ensure that it aligns, the 1.5 inches aligns on both sides, and then you stitch it like this with 1/2 inch at the bottom. So because we are taking the dart all the way to the bottom, when you are drafting it, ensure that you add about 1 inch to the bottom, so that once the dart has been taken away from the bottom, it wouldn't reduce the measurement on the hip line too much. Okay, so this is what we have after sewing the dart. You will notice that the bust span wouldn't reduce by much. It will reduce by 1/2 inch, which is within dimension. Okay, and because we added what we are going to take in the waist width, it wouldn't reduce what we have on the waist, and neither will what we have on the hip reduce. So this is what we have. You see how the dart is looking beautiful. Now what you're going to do is we're going to create armhole dart. All right, so after taking in the demarcation for the shoulder, you measure what you have and divide it into 2, and then you're going to connect it all the way to the dart tip. After sewing this dart, you're going to have something that looks like a bustier. It's actually a bustier, but a bustier that has been sewn and not cut, and this creates room for the bust to sit in a very beautiful way. So this is what I was talking about. I ironed it and I'm going to stitch it with 1/4 inch. So this is what we have. Do you see this? Do you see it? Do you see the room the dart has created? It's just a bustier, but a bustier without cutting, a bustier that has been sewn. So after joining your shoulders, what you're going to do is we are going to take the neck circumference for our collar. There are 2 ways to do it. You can fold it in this way, pin it down like the way I am doing, And then you proceed to take your measurements. All right, this will give you your measurements divided into 2. Or you can choose to take the full circumference of the neck. Eventually, this is what I ended up using. All right, and I got 20.5 inches. So I'm going to demonstrate the cutting on this lining piece. You put your fabric on bias this way, cross way this way. The length will be 4 inches. The length of the cape is 4 inches. So ensure that you can have your measurements, your dimensions. Okay, so put it on bias this way. And then you mark out the length, which is the 4 inches that I wanted. The front has these tipped, how do I call it? You see, it looks like triangles at the front. All right, you can choose to have the back looking the same, but I'm choosing to go at it in a different way. So if you want the front and the back to have those tips, you can leave it like this as you see it. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting the measurement I had, 20.5 divided into 2. I've left ½ inch allowance before this side for sewing, and then I proceeded to mark out my 10.5 inches, which rest here. But I want the back to slant like this. Okay, so after marking this, I'm going to add my sewing allowance, which is this ½ inches over here. Because we have put the fabric on bias, you know that automatically the neck, what will go around the neck is going to go smoothly. Because it's on bias, it will stretch easily around the neck curve, so you don't need to curve the neck in any way. Okay, so you just cut it out. Because it's on bias, it will fold gently over the neckline. So this is what we have now. Because our pattern is already on fold, you're going to need 2 pieces. Because it's on fold, one will act as the interfacing naturally, so I chose to interface it one side so that I can be able to turn the edges easily. Okay, so you cut 2 pieces for the left and then for the right, and then you turn it inside out after sewing the sides. Okay, and then you trim it off, reduce the allowance, just as you see me doing. So this is what you have. This is the front edged, and then the back will look like that. We are going to attach the collar from the inside out. All right, you start from the center point, ensure that they meet conjoined at the center point. There should be no space in between them. All right, and then you wrap it around the curve, hold it with your pin all the way to the back slit. So that is what I am doing right here. After that, you stitch it, and then you notch the area, you notch it all around so that it can turn easily. You're going to neaten or weave the edges, and then you're going to top stitch it to the fabric. All right, so that is what I did eventually. So let's work on our sleeves. I'm sorry I cut the sleeve offline, but I used the radius of 16.5 inches. I put the fabric on bias and I cut it this way with 16.5 inches. It's easy to see how it came out, right? So that is what we have here. And so I'm going to lay my armhole. I'm going to lay the armhole over it like this. This is where the armhole will be. So I'm going to just trace it out and add seam allowance. Okay, so trace it out and add seam allowance. That is what you see me doing. So this is what we have here. Trace it out, add seam allowance. Okay, and then from there you connect it to the curve on the bottom, and then you cut it out. This is basically it. You have to cut lining for this this sleeve. Okay, I chose to add lining, but by adding lining it's easier for you to turn the curve on the bottom, right, in my opinion, but you are free to do as you wish. So this is what it looks like. Please, at this point, I want to say that please like this video, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions on any part of this video, please leave it in the comment section down below, and I will be sure to answer all your pressing questions. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had your questions answered. Thank you.